Hey, friends, welcome back to Strength Happens, where we talk about the real side of motherhood, disability, and everything in between. Today's conversation is about more than a project. It's about what happens when a parent sees a gap in the world their child has to navigate and decides to help close it. We're talking to Lindsey, an engineer in Tampa, who's part of the Florida Engineering Leadership Institute, FELI, class of 2026.
Yes, I work with FELI, and I recently met Lindsay this year as I do some of the speaking engagement with the FELI Leadership Program. Earlier this year, as I taught sessions on effective communication, Lindsay and her cohort, class of 2026, shared the selection of their class project. It actually has 3 to 4 components, but the largest part of their class project that they took on is very close to her heart as well as other members of the FELI group. They're going to work to build an accessible playground at a school for kids with autism in St. Petersburg called the Florida Autism Inspired Academy, or AIA. Lindsay's going to share more today about why they chose this project and what it means to her.
That's so awesome. And that's why we wanted Lindsay here today, not just to talk about the what, but the why. Because this is a story about raising a child with autism, and about seeing the world differently, and about turning that perspective into something that creates belonging for others.
And Lindsay, welcome to the show. Let's start off the show to when we first met in Orlando a few months ago.
I feel like in Orlando when we met and you were telling your story, and it was right after we had talked about our class project. And you're like, I want to hear more about it. You were just looking for the person, not me specifically, you were looking for the person who had information about the project related to Autism Inspired Academy.
Yeah. I instantly felt connected to you as you talked about your daughter and were sharing about the class project and the interest in autism. And instantly, I wanted to share with you all about my kids. So it was kind of fun that I got to meet you at this huge event. How old was Olivia again?
Olivia's 11 years old now. How old is Morgan now? Is it 25,
26.
26, 26?
Hmm.
Yeah, I did listen.
Yeah.
Um, And so I do feel I'm like a few years behind you because Olivia is 11. But honestly, I was like, where were they when I was going through this?
Hmm.
Because I had
Yeah,
a
you
great
feel so
support
alone.
system. Yes.
Mhm.
It's probably the most isolating experience that I've had. And I was an only child raised by a single parent. It has totally changed who I am as a person.
It's
I should have put cry on my bingo card because I teared.
you got
Me
I
too.
did,
teary,
and
and
I'm
I'm
not
the
a
crier of
crier.
the group,
Oh,
and
I
now you're
haven't even gotten to like the more vulnerable parts
oh, you
for
well,
myself. So get ready.
Well, I think what you just said when you first logged on, it's what made me cry too, is Janine and I, both had that feeling of loneliness and isolation because it's so crisis mode at so many times in the hospital, and you see your other neighborhood kids doing so many other things that are typical that it's so isolating. And when I found Janine, I found somebody else who had that similar experience. You had said when you listened, it felt like your community where you found those special parents. And that's why we started this
Yeah.
podcast is so we could be a support to other families. You guys could be a support to us. So
Yeah.
it's just beautiful that that's one of the first things you said.
You've succeeded.
Oh,
You've
thank you.
Wow.
succeeded
That's
for
all.
And do I get double bingo
Oh.
cards?
No. No.
We just we just found out right before you logged in, we're doing this bingo competition,
Yeah.
challenging us, our podcast, and challenging us to step outside of our comfort level. And Janine just won bingo today, and it makes me
Oh,
sad
because you
because
cried twice.
yes. No, hers
Well,
was we had to have her last one to get a bingo was to have 2 at least 2 series. So we did one on advocacy and now we're doing one on autism. So when we hit stop on this episode, we will have 2 in a series and she'll get bingo before me. Not that I'm competitive or anything.
she's the most competitive person I know. So the fact that I actually won is a miracle because
Oh, it
I'm,
pisses me off.
yeah,
Listen,
she gets
and
a little
Lindsay understands because she's
spicy.
a leader personality type like me.
See, and I'm not.
So I am going to use
I'm
that in
not.
some of my response, Jill. So I'm in Feely, which is how we met. That's the Florida Leadership Engineering Institute. It's a cohort annually. So I'm class of 2026 of 40 engineers in the state of Florida. It's organized through the Florida Engineering Society. And we come together and we do these leadership. They're a lot of fun. but we do a lot of good work, and there's also a project component to it. Um, so the first session, we did the people map. So here's the top of all the questions, right? There's seven categories where you rank. The top one for me is work hard, play hard. So I'm like filling it out. I'm like, this is going to be, maybe I'll be spread evenly. And it was like leader, leader, and then equal parts people, free spirit, and then way down at the bottom is task. Just they're like, well, we know what you're not. You're not task. So I the best way for me to explain how Olivia's impacted my life is I am the rare equal parts. I believe that my leader free spirit component was who I was. I was not as patient. I was very
Mhm,
like, get to the point, my way or the highway. And then Olivia came, and she's my
mhm,
oldest. I have three daughters. And I remember when she was probably around two, it was before my second was born, Callie. I was in a Publix parking lot. Olivia was at my in laws, and I was around the corner, and I was just in absolute tears. And I said to my mom on the phone, this is the epitome of not getting my way. And this was just the one thing that no matter what I did, no matter who I was, how tenacious, how assertive I was with doctors, somewhere in that 2014, 15, 16 time span, I changed. I had
mhm,
to change. I
mhm,
became more empathetic. There's the people aspect.
mhm,
I need the world to be kind. I need the world to understand or be accommodating on some level for Olivia. And to do that, I have to lead that, or I have to practice that.
mhm,
And so it has completely changed the way that I've interacted personally. And then the professional came on. I took some time off after she was born. And then the therapy started kicking in, couldn't come back, couldn't come back. It's like, you know what? I'm going to have another kid. They're telling me it's not genetic. And so I did. And she, like, the
mhm,
second one comes out, and those milestones, those baby milestones you mentioned rolling over. I remember the day that Callie rolled over because Olivia just didn't for so
mhm,
long. And there was just something like hope. And by the time she was 10 months old, she was speaking in these short sentences, and she was just so
mm,
sassy, and she wanted to be around Olivia all the time, that we're like,
mhm,
we could totally have another one. So immediately the third is in utero. And that's when we go to a specialist that's like, this is probably genetic. And I fell
Oh.
apart. I fell
Oh,
apart.
And
I
you were
was like,
pregnant
what
absolutely.
are
with
we
the
going to
third
do?
one?
I was pregnant with the third one. Zoe is healthy, neurotypical. Her infant development was typical, and I
Mhm,
just had the two like very different experiences of delay versus baby Einstein. And so here she comes, and
mhm,
she's developing typically normally. I mean, every baby is different, and my
right.
experiences were so different. So I'm very grateful that Olivia has her two younger sisters that were part of what will carry her on into adulthood, because that is the
Mhm,
one thing that I'm really terrified of as she's getting
mm.
older, is what happens when she's older. So
I will say your daughters will be the best sisters. They will be her
Mhm.
support system, and they will surprise you every time you turn around. And they will hold her and be her advocate for the rest of your life. So you'll never have to worry about that.
I see it as they're getting older. They're getting older and more independent, and that gives me
Yep.
so much hope, Jane,
Mhm,
because
mhm. Look at me.
seems like as Olivia gets older, it gets more difficult. It does not get like it does not get any easier. Like, we've got an army of specialists that we're like, okay, here's what we're going to do when this happens. So we're
Yeah.
all working together over time. And that team took a long time. It's like a very delicate
Mhm.
balance. And they're at all children's. So I feel like
Yeah. That's who we
so much in
used, all
common.
of all
Mhm.
children's. So,
Yes. But I will say what did get easier is the feeding tube. She was 8 years
mhm.
old, and we had done so much feeding therapy. I mean, that was very freeing. It was terrifying. I was so sad.
Yeah.
I felt like I failed. The doctor came
Mhm.
in the
It's
hospital.
overwhelming and stressful.
Well, he said, Mom, you've done a great job. You've done everything you can. she is not leaving this hospital without a feeding tube. You
Mm,
have
Yeah.
two choices. I can perform the procedure and do the peg, and then
Hmm.
later we can go and do the Mickey button, or based off of some of the genetic testing that she has about, the risks with anesthesia, you can go straight to the Mickey button.
mhm.
And we actually had friends that wife is a nephrologist and husband is a GI doctor. And so,
Oh,
I was
that's
Well, that's a
texting
perfect.
good
her.
combo to have as in
It's a
your
good
friend group.
combo for
Yeah,
where we were right
resources.
now. I was like, help me. And she said, we talked about it. I would go straight to the Mickey button. She's already got to do it. Just do the
Mhm.
Mickey button. And she's had it for 3 years. We're asked a lot, how long will she have it? And until she doesn't need it anymore.
Yep.
I, Life got a lot less stressful. Mealtime got a
Mhm.
lot more
Mhm.
enjoyable. That's something, Ginny, that you
Yeah.
talked
Yes.
about, that with the feeding tube has liberated us.
It's a life changer.
Well, if they're not getting their nutrition. So if they're not eating and you're fighting constantly, then at least now I think their behavior is much better because they're nourished.
Mhm. And they're sleeping better, and in summer the summer in Florida, Hallie used to dehydrate so easily, and once we
Yeah.
got the tube, it was like, "Oh, we can keep her hydrated. We don't have to worry about that either."
I'm so thankful for it. I had gone back to work part time just because I wanted to feel like a little bit more. It was something that I
You
felt
needed it
like I
for
wanted
you.
to do. I did.
Mhm.
It's kind of my own therapy, but the feeding tube, it was like I can go back full time, and
I was gonna say,
I
at what
I
age was she when you were able to go back to work?
so I went back to work when she was 7, 6 or 7,
Mhm.
part time. The youngest was also in preschool now, and
Yeah.
so what I'm going to do with my time. I did not find myself like, oh, I'm going to be so productive. I'm going to do this. I
Mhm.
did not do any of the things that a stay at home mom says they're going to do when their kids are
Yeah.
in school. It was for me when I was caregiving, that became a big part of my identity. But I was
Mhm.
always the mother, the caregiver, and then there was the engineering component. I worked really hard for my degree. This was something that I wanted.
Mm.
I'm one of those where that I never changed my major. I knew that this was it. I got a job, moved to Tampa. This is what I'm doing. Met my husband out here, got married, had a baby, and then everything just like
Mhm.
went off the rails. So here we are. We have our new normal established. I can go back part time. Then the feeding tube happened. Life got a little less stressful. So I went back full time. And that's when I just realized, like, okay, this is for me. This is my form of my self care.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
It's being able to work and use your degree and have a career.
yes, I'm the mother
Mhm.
and the engineer. And then along
Yep.
comes this FELI program.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you got into FELI?
Sure. So I mentioned that it is the Florida Engineering Leadership Institute. It's a cohort of 40 individuals are accepted every year. You apply,
Mhm.
and it's geared towards established and or emerging leaders within the state of Florida. So it's all across all disciplines of engineering. I've noticed there's a lot of transportation, which is
Yeah.
my area of practice. And we get together and it's networking, it's professional development and giving back to the community all at the same time. And a
Mhm.
lot of fun. Right. So that
A
That's
lot of
great.
networking,
fun. You guys have a
work hard,
lot of
play hard. So we had our first session. We did the people mapping. Our leader, Joey, he
Mm.
says, oh, it's time to talk about your project. It can be anything you want. And he's very hands on. Here's your project. You're going to fundraise. You're going to do all the things. Discuss.
And
And
every FELI group has to take on a class project, but they get to decide it all on their own. They have to raise all the funds for their class project. And not that engineers are competitive, but they are. And so every year, each class tries to do a little bit more. So back to you on the class
yes,
project.
thank
Because
you
I'm
for
excited.
saying. Okay, so that discuss bomb goes off, and the class starts throwing things around. And I, the mother and the professional, were very compartmentalized aspects of myself. Not that I didn't talk about or tell anyone about my family. It's just
Uh-huh.
that it wasn't something that I wanted to push in. I didn't want that to be my professional identity.
Mhm.
Also, I am a female, and I think the last time I Googled it, which is a while, in the immediate area, 15% of engineers are female. So if I'm
Yeah.
already this part-time mom and it's like, you don't need to be on this project, you don't need to be in this meeting. I didn't want that for myself. I want the right of refusal. I do not need
Right.
someone, not a
Mhm.
manager, not a leader, to make that decision for me based on my home circumstances, my personal life.
Absolutely.
So I was very
Understandable.
compartmentalized. I
Yeah.
talked about for a long time. It was very clear. I could hear a theme in the room. I was pretty quiet for the first bit, and it seemed like we wanted to walk away from an infrastructure based project. That was a
Mhm.
recurring theme of working with a contractor, getting something built. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, I have this connection. There's a school in Clearwater, Florida. It's called Autism Inspired Academy. So I explain
Yeah.
the school, the industry connection, and that I don't know what they need, but they did move into a new campus a couple of years ago. And so now we have ideas floating around. Let's just capture them here on this OneNote and just let's make progress and make contact and just see what happens. And so
Mhm.
projects are dropping like flies, and I reach out to share, and I was like, we're looking for a STEM project that's infrastructure based. I know you have a new campus. Is there a project that would be beneficial to the school? How can we help? And her response was very fast. And she said, we would love to have a playground for our middle and high school students.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so it's for the older kids.
For the older kids, because 2 years ago they had this opportunity, they took it. There was a priority. You can't, you need a playground for your elementary students.
Mm,
And that playground looks a lot different than a playground you would need for your older
right.
students.
Right.
Bigger bodies.
So she sent me a wish list of as far as, types of movement or what they were looking for. So it was they don't want slides, they don't need forts or enclosed spaces. What they
Mhm.
want are swings, spinning, climbing, think Ninja Warrior type activities,
Yep.
Oh,
right?
so now
That's
hearing that and
fun.
seeing the picture, it
Makes sense.
matches.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right?
I have to ask a quick question.
Sure.
When you brought the project back to Feely and said they have this need, how receptive was your cohort, your class with this project?
Extremely receptive.
Mm.
I would say that out of all the ideas, this project had in the engineering world what we would call highest risk. And that is project unknowns or having to contract or just
Mhm.
so we have another project that we're doing, and that's with the Boys and Girls Club as well. And it was, hey, we have this STEM lab and they already have the plans and we're just looking for that money injection and then the
Mhm.
volunteer can come in. But honestly, the program itself has already been established. The blueprints there, the plans are there. And this is different. I went to the school, I met with Cher for due diligence. I took pictures. Here's the space. It really is. Thankfully, it's graded. Fenced in grass with one structure on it. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay. So this really is, she said, it's a blank canvas. Now I need to appeal to my FELI class. So a parent does marketing. And so they put together these slides about the needs. And the class ultimately voted for the Boys and Girls Club 40% and Autism Inspired Academy 60%.
Mm.
So that
Yay!
with our project
Mm,
budget of $100,000. So it's 60 grand
very cool.
to Autism Inspired Academy. I say, okay, Cher, I think we can do this. I did meet with the contractor and we got to designing. We got the wish list. We had a follow up meeting at the school with Cher and came up with no design yet, an itemized list, wish list. And sure enough, it clocks in at $200,000. So, shade covering, it's got to go. That's half the price right there.
Yeah.
No turf. We're going to go with mulch right now. And then there's the larger structure you see in the renderings. That's a $60,000 structure right there. So it pulls
Mhm.
out. We can do everything else if he has a partner. And so I did
Mhm.
reach out to a couple of contractors that had expressed interest, and one of them was like, "Yes." And so they are our partner. They donated directly to the school. There are some really great people in
Mhm.
this world, and so it's great to see everything coming together. So they gave us the design. Love it. It does meet the STEM qualifications for the 503C um, um, qualifications that FES has. So all donations are tax deductible to both of our FELI projects. The next step was contract negotiations. So we start negotiating the contract and there's this cost and this cost, this cost. So my project manager, like I like get a little assertive. I'm like, all right, we got to negotiate this a little bit before we send this to AIA because the contract is not with FELI, it's with the school. We have our commitment for $60,000. We need the contractor to agree to these terms to have it done by this date. They've been great to work with. The contract was executed and we have a project.
Oh,
The
Oh,
great.
equipment's been ordered and
oh,
it's
wow.
I
AIA
was just
is
about to
very
ask what
excited.
phase you're in of the project.
So survey is complete. The equipment has been ordered and it will be delivered. It's coming in at the beginning of May. I'm really excited
Oh,
about it.
wow.
Oh my
Like
gosh, you give me goosebumps.
How long will it take once you get all the equipment to have it completed?
well, so the equipment's going to arrive on site. There is a lot of space. It's going to come down to what the school sees best. Yes. So we budget about 4 weeks to construct. So school lets out in the beginning of June. They go a little bit longer than the public school system. So somewhere mid June we should be able to start. I am kind of surprised at how quickly this came together and so
It
many
really had. We
people.
were just talking about this in what, January, February, and here you are, April, and it's
You're
gonna
a
happen.
taskmaster.
I'm a taskmaster. Well, so I'm leading this project. There's a heavy involvement from so many within the class. And on the first session, we're told you're going to get out what you put in. So there are so many people
Mhm,
that are putting in so much. There's the Boys and Girls Club project. So there's, let's call it a project manager for that
mhm,
and a point of contact. Then there's a treasurer. There is someone who's tracking corporate sponsorships. There have been so many small fundraisers. I would say that there's a good dozen of us that are really tackling this or moving things forward. And I would say, so I'm very grateful to this class. I have met so many wonderful people and I got to know some people that I already knew even better. Um,
It's so
mhm,
exciting.
and I
I
am not the only parent in the class of a child on the spectrum. And I didn't
mhm.
know that. There are people that I've known for a couple of years and I had no idea. We
And you
never
didn't know
talked
that
about it.
Yeah.
from and you knew them before, but you didn't know. Isn't it
Mhm.
exciting to see? I think, that's when you mentioned the class project. I was like, "Oh, I need to talk to you after our session," because it's your community, parents who know what it's like, that you're not
Mhm,
alone. So and there were 3 or 4 people that came up at once to talk about the project, and I was like, "What? You're all parents of children with,
mhm.
complex issues," and it was just so exciting to see the excitement in all your eyes.
I am very excited about this. And I like to tell everybody, disclaimer, full disclosure, my child
Mhm.
does go there. And actually, I didn't choose the exact project for the school, but it just so happens that Olivia is moving up to middle next
Oh.
year.
Okay. So she'll
And
benefit right away.
Immediately.
she might be the first child to swing on the swings there. She
Oh,
That's
you're being
really
loves
cool.
swings.
serious. Can I ask you a
And
question? Because this is so
yeah,
exciting. Um, AIA took a chance on your daughter at 6 years old and let her in the program when they didn't necessarily have capacity at the time. And now, just a few years later, you're able to offer and give back to the community that gave so much to you or is giving so much to you.
Mhm,
How does that feel?
so I believe that once it's done, I don't I don't know how I'll feel. I think
Mm.
elation is the first word that pops to mind. I'm so appreciative of this school. They do so many wonderful things.
Wonderful too, as you're talking about what you've done with your Feely class, as parents, we can see a gap when there's a need, and then we find ways to
mhm.
fill in that gap because it's for our kids and it's what's important. And it's all these things are not just impacting your child, it's going to impact a community of children for generations. That's a powerful
Yeah.
thing to think about.
It is powerful. The most powerful thing that it's taught me is this school does have expectations of these students to learn and to grow.
Mhm.
That when that expectation precipitates that, okay, so I'm going to enable you to do this. You will be independent. That was a story that Jill, you had told about, you went in every morning in third grade and you would have these things away. And then teacher was like, she can
Get
do
out.
it.
Yeah.
That is the baseline. They're going to walk to class. They're going to
Yeah.
put things in. And then she does have an RBT with her for most of the school day. It's appropriate for her. And so every child that needs that has
Mhm.
it. And the ones that don't, they're very active on social media. I encourage anyone who's interested, anyone in the Bay Area that's like, I need to find a school, tour, talk to her. You will feel it when you're there.
Awesome,
I
awesome.
felt it.
Just the playground design in and of itself is removing barriers to
Yeah.
allow students to have their needs met on the playground.
Yeah, Jill and I were talking about it right before.
Did you see the communication board on it though?
Yeah, the communication board on the left-hand side of the image.
Yes.
What does that board do? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So when children are nonverbal, and
Mhm.
some of them have an iPad, Olivia is limited verbal. So I'm going to make some assumptions here. But there are different activities that are on the
Oh, very
playground to point
cool.
to, and the nonverbal students
Love
to
Love
be
that.
able
that.
to be on
So
the
they
playground.
can pick activities they wanna do on the playground, and they can use it as a huge augmentative device for them.
They can without having to carry the iPad on the
That's
Yes,
playground.
so
So they're
cool.
that's
free. They're
incredible.
hands free.
That's
So
creative.
I'm I'm really excited for the playground, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the kids on it
Yeah.
in the future.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very hopeful.
Mm. How do you feel people could get involved or support projects like this in their own community, not being with a huge fundraising group or a project, but maybe just from a personal perspective?
So for the person that's a little less assertive, for the person that says,
Me.
I want something to do, but I don't know what to do, it's honestly those unplanned moments. You show up, you talk to
Mhm.
people, you connect, something is going to organically come up. And then you're going to say, oh, I can help with that.
Mhm.
I know somebody that does this. If you come from a place of curiosity, open mindedness, and you're ready to listen, that will open the door to your greatest impact because there's action, but there's also action with purpose. And to know the purpose, I feel like listening to Share and listening to Liz about what the needs of the school were, listening to the class talk about what they wanted the project to be, that
Mhm.
infrastructure component, you just understanding those recurring themes. That's when I stood up. That's when I inserted myself. That's when I stopped compartmentalizing and
Mm.
combined the mother and the
Mhm.
engineer. So I have Feely to thank for that. They say that you're going to grow. I honestly, wow. I mean, I'm
You didn't
very
go
grateful.
into the Feely experience to
Expecting to grow as a mom as well as a professional.
I thought I was going to go connect with professionals, make sure I bring my Pedialyte with me. That's my hangover cure. So if
Yep.
I'm out late, so
Mhm.
when you saw me in the morning, Jill, and I'm like, and I'm functioning, that is Lindsey brought to you by Pedialyte. So that's me.
Yep.
I thought that was what Feely was going to be for me, that I was going to kind of be a laid back person. But when I'm hearing I want to help.
Mhm.
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know how to be like, "Yeah, get
You
out
t
there, just
Yep.
contact your local representative and get to action."
No, but that's
That's
not
never
how
been me.
things happen, the best projects, I think, sometimes come from just
The
your
small
experiences
moments.
that you're having. Mhm.
Well, and it's
Yes.
interesting because if you hadn't shared your story about your daughter and her school, you wouldn't have learned about the other parents in the Feely class who
Mhm.
also had children facing similar issues and bringing them up in the conversation. I don't know, looking back, I'm kind of curious what's been the most meaningful part of being involved in this project.
The meaningful part is I'm a part of this group of 40, and when it's time to talk about projects, I'm one of the people that everyone turns around to look at, and I stand up and I say, "Here's what it is." I'm actually showing that the needle is moving. We're getting closer and closer to a completed
Mhm.
project. It feels good to talk about the school, talk about the needs, and then they have approached me and asked me about Olivia.
Mm.
And
Oh, Oh.
So the month of April is transforming from autism awareness to autism acceptance.
Acceptance.
And you can
Mhm.
see that they're asking the questions and it's moving towards that they're aware and now they're accepting
Mhm.
and then more than that they're embracing it. So
Oh.
That's powerful.
um it is, and I never imagined that 40 professionals would come together and be like, we care about this school.
Mhm.
Mm.
I'm so honored. Yeah, I'm forever grateful to every single one of them.
That's
Powerful
Forever,
incredible.
program for
forever.
Mhm.
powerful people that are a part of it.
You mentioned the competitiveness of classes. I think this is the best one. It's got to be, right? Look what we're doing.
By far, by far.
My daughter is going to get to swing because of this class. So,
Yeah.
Ah, you're making me cry again. My cheeks hurt from smiling so much this episode because you're just making me so excited because you've brought together two of my communities. I absolutely love the engineering community and Feely, and I absolutely love the disability community and families. And so you've brought two of my favorite groups together because we're not alone. Like, there's other parents like us that are doing big jobs and making big differences because you chose to use your voice and speak up when you were a little hesitant at first. And I'm excited
um,
for you and proud of the work you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know what the perspective is of the rest of the class from that day when I was like, I was reserved. I was not speaking. I didn't,
I
but I
know when you
swear,
were
I timed it. I looked down. I was like, I know I haven't spoken for 30 minutes and they're all pinging things around. Okay, now's my chance. I should say something.
I wasn't there that
So
first session, so when you're saying you were quiet, I'm like, "Lindsay was quiet? Really?"
I didn't say I was quiet. I said there what for that conversation I was quiet for
Yeah.
30 minutes. For
Yeah.
30 minutes, I love to just be social and chat with people. It's a big part of my personality. It's a big part of who I am. It transcends just mother engineer. I'm also a part of something bigger. That's my community.
Mhm.
And whether that's at church or at being a part of the AIA community at school or the engineering community, the feeling I loved, I was in a sorority. I enjoy that. I thrive on that collective. I love to be on a team. And I just so happened to end up leading a lot of the teams that I'm on. I don't know what to say, Jill. I think you pegged me. You pegged my personality type pretty clear.
And you are leader Lindsay for sure, for sure.
That's
We are
funny.
You were going to call me Leader Lindsay. That
Hey,
stuff,
you
by the
called
way.
yourself that, and you
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you
that's
you
right. Leader. Yeah, I'm
self-claimed
Leader
that
Lindsay.
one.
Did I?
Yeah, you
Oh,
in one of your emails to me, you're like, "I'm so leader Lindsay," or something like that.
oh, do you remember giving me that nickname in the session?
Yes.
So I emailed you and I was like, remember, because time had passed and I was like, she's got to remember me. She called me Leader Lindsay.
No, I
And then that
so
stuck.
remember that.
We went out that night and as a class and they're like, come on, Leader Lindsay. We went to to laser
I didn't
tag and
know it
go
would
kart.
stick.
So you labeled
It
her.
I didn't mean
you
to.
did. You
I
said it
really
and then
said
it caught on for the rest of the class. So I was like, all right, I dragged my feet in reaching out to you again because I was concerned this project was not going to work out.
I
And
was
once the
never
contract
concerned.
signed, yes, I once that
Not
contract
with
was
you at the
signed.
helm.
Oh,
Well, it was funny after that she went to that session, she called me and she's like, "Oh, I met this really great group of people and you're never going to believe what they're doing." And we got excited just chit-chatting about it and then we were like, "Hey, we should have her come on. That would be a great representation of exactly what we're wanting about parents getting involved deeper because of the experiences of their children." So,
I
we are very appreciative of you sharing your story
And
today.
taking the time on a
thank you.
Saturday to chat with
Yeah,
us
when you could
about
be with your
this.
family. But
Thanks.
it's been so meaningful and heartfelt and a big reminder that leadership and community impact go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Is there anything before we go that we didn't cover that you would love to share or
My only response, or not my only response, but my response, Janine, to you is this is the penultimate opportunity for my personality traits, right? Remember, I said I was free spirited. I wasn't
Mhm.
always the kindest or the most flexible person. I would see other people like, oh, in-laws, right? So, they love this other female. She's so great, somebody else's wife. And I was like, should be more like her. And then Olivia came, and I know exactly why I am the way that I am.
Mhm.
I am a better parent for Olivia. I am that
Mhm.
assertive parent. I am the person that's going to talk to the doctor. And that helped her. I can't believe it, but
Mhm.
it actually helped. So I'm thankful that I am the way that I am. And Olivia has changed me as a person because now I can relax and know that there's a time and place for that, those traits in me. And Jill, it's such a simple personality types, right? You're not you and your dad, or we're not trying to compartmentalize people into like just micro, like the long list of personality types and detail. This is just here's the type, general, here's your strength, here's your Achilles heel. It really did nail it. And then when you read Leader Free Spirit and Leader People, and so I feel like there's a true life purpose involved here.
Mm.
And I do think that being a part of feeling and doing this project is transformative for me in more than professional ways. In large part, not only am I helping AI, but I got to meet you. And
Oh,
I was
Oh,
introduced to your
that's sweet.
podcast. I'm very grateful that you both are sharing your stories because my story fits in that unique and that bowl that you guys are in. Um, I really appreciate you both, and I feel like I
mm.
know a lot about both of you, and I know a lot about both of your daughters. And whatever preschool you guys met at, I wish we'd have been there.
I
That would have been
know.
Yeah.
Olivia just came into this world about 10 years after us, so hopefully some of the things we paved the way will make Olivia and your lives a little easier, so that's the goal.
you have. And I've taken away a lot of notes, mainly hearing that that Olivia is not the only patient that I'm a parent of the patient. So the final words of the
Mhm.
project, class didn't want to just donate. We wanted to build something. And I'm so happy and honored to be a part of that.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been such a meaningful and heartfelt conversation. And it's a reminder that leadership and community impact go hand in hand.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, if you're motivated by this story, remember April is Autism Awareness Month. But as Lindsay said earlier, we're transitioning it to
Mm.
Autism Acceptance Month, where we're more accessible and more inclusive. So if you're looking for a way to get involved, check out your own community for other autism accessible initiatives that you might be able to use your skill set to give back to your community. I keep coming back to this idea that what Lindsay and her team through the FELI class of 2026 are doing through raising money and building this playground, it's not just a project for them, it's access and it's inclusion. And it's a space where kids who are so often asked to adapt to this world and to our world finally get a world that's specifically designed with them in mind, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And what stayed with me is how this all started. It
Yeah.
wasn't a huge grand plan, but it was a lived experience that Lindsay noticed the small everyday barriers her child faces. And she thought that maybe her school might be open to partner with us. And they were able to choose something and make a change because that's what advocacy really looks like. It's not always loud, it's a consistent and it's often personal.
And I thought it was interesting when Lindsay said that her group started sharing about what to do for a class project, and she
Mhm.
was quiet and she sat back because she was hesitant to share her mom role of having a
Mhm.
child on the autism spectrum with her profession, and it's something all of us
Right.
experience as parents. How do we balance our profession, our friendships, and having kids who are complex when it comes to medical and neurologic issues? And I think it came down to Lindsay used her voice for her daughter and for
Mhm.
other children like her daughter. And hearing Lindsay talk about Olivia, wow, that was where the heart of it is. And she allowed
Yep.
herself to be vulnerable in a professional setting in such a powerful way. And I was so thankful that she shared that with us. because I know for so many families who have children in the autism community or in the medically complex world, something as simple as a playground isn't always simple. As you and I
Mhm.
both know, taking our kids to different parks when they were little, it
Yeah.
can be overwhelming. And most of all, it can be inaccessible. And it begins to feel isolating as a parent when you just want to do that natural thing of let your child play. Um,
Yeah.
but this project that they're taking on, it changes things. It creates a space where our children can have joy and it's accessible for them in a real situation.
So maybe the takeaway today isn't just, let's go build something big. Maybe it's pay attention to what feels hard, notice what's missing, and ask yourself, where can I create a little more access or maybe a little more understanding, but mostly more inclusion?
Absolutely. Because when we do that, when we offer these opportunities, we don't just change spaces,
Yeah.
we're changing experiences for children, for their entire family. We're changing childhoods and we're changing
Generations.
absolutely
Mhm.
generations. We're changing education systems in this case
Yeah.
with this school. And we change what's possible for families that are walking this path.
Well, we want to thank you for being here with us on Strength Happens. And if this conversation moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it and keep showing up for the communities around you.
And until next time, remember strength doesn't always have to look big and bold. Sometimes it looks like building something your child and so many others will finally get to feel like they belong in.
This is Strength Happens.